On Sunday, we'll have full coverage of all things Owings Mills on the backfields. Luke Jones will be there. Any breaking news comes to you first on the WNST text service. That is powered up by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Meanwhile, baseball rolls on. The Orioles roll to Toronto and into New York. Not sure exactly how many they're going to have to win this week, but they certainly can't be losing to the Toronto Blue Jays and not need some help from the outside. This guy covers baseball as well as all things sports for USA Today out in the Bay Area. You can follow his journey on Twitter as well at Jorge L. Ortiz. Out on Twitter, we welcome Jorge Ortiz back onto the program to talk pennant race baseball. Doesn't get much more exciting than this. I mean, I know, Jorge, the Orioles had first place for a long time, and they've let it sort of fall away. But 1 week left, win some ball games, and you get to the wild card. I don't know, as fans, we can ask for more than this.
Yeah, and, I thought they were kind of dead in the water when they got swept by the Red Sox in those 4 games. But the fact they came back and swept the Diamondbacks over the weekend and held them to 4 runs, that showed me a lot because they were going with the back end of their rotation, and they still bounced back nicely. They're in a pretty good position to get into the playoffs.
Well, and I guess some of that's going to be about Houston and Seattle and Detroit and I know Houston and Seattle are going to beat each other up a little bit here this week. But, the Red Sox have been the team that's done all the damage onto the Blue Jays and onto the Orioles. They're really streaking, and I think I know you were down in Texas seeing Arlington. Texas and Cleveland have real concern here for how good the Red Sox have become lately.
Yeah, they do. Particularly, like in Cleveland's case, they have lost 2 of their starters in Danny Salazar and Carlos Carrasco. They're still going to win that division, but once you get to the playoffs, those guys are obviously key. And then with the Rangers, they're still trying to sort out their starters after Cole Hamels and Yu Darvish. But it's a really resilient team that finds ways to win. They're on the way to setting a record for most comeback wins in a season. So definitely keep an eye on the Rangers. I think they're a very solid, strong team. Tim Dyson's been really good as a closer. And then that middle of the lineup with Beltre, who seems like he will never age. They're really, really solid.
For the Red Sox and their surge, it would have been hard-pressed a month ago to say anyone in the East could be the number 1 seed. It would take an 11-game winning streak or something like that for it to happen. The Red Sox are now putting themselves in a position here with one more final push and certainly have pressured Texas and pressured Cleveland now that they're going to lose home field advantage these other 2 spots.
Absolutely, and their pitching has been sensational pretty much in the second half, and that was by far their biggest concern. I don't think anybody saw Rick Porcello becoming an ace and a 20-game winner, and David Price turning things around and becoming his old self. That was more predictable, but having those 2 guys at the top of their rotation has really helped. And then you have Kimbrel and in the closer spot, nailing things down. They got Koji Uehara back, and of course they have the best offense in the majors. They have 3 guys with 100 RBI, so they have some room for error if their pitching is not going well because they can just bomb away.
Jorge, I think we learned, kind of a valuable lesson here this year, and maybe Duquette did as well, and they still might go win the World Series 4 weeks from now. I don't know, but I know this sort of bash thing, we're going to have guys that only hit home runs, we don't mind striking out, we're not going to move runners along. It's really led to the Orioles having this incredible arc from having good at-bats early in the year to now swinging at pitches over their head in the dirt, sort of the old school, and so many guys in this lineup with 30-plus home runs, and they don't have 100 RBIs. It really speaks to the lack of base runners, and they don't run the bases well. They don't get on base enough, that this beer league softball approach was a little ill-fated. I mean, you say the Red Sox hit the ball. They also get on base. They also work counts. They also hit singles and doubles and things, not just home runs.
Well, you're right, but I wouldn't say it's been ill-fated in that I think it's been highly productive, and, they have actually struck out less than I expected. I thought they were going to set a record for strikeouts, and they're not even leading the majors.
Well, they did that 1 week. The Houston week back in June, they tried to set the record, I think, but
they've kind of spread it out since then. But having 6 guys with at least 20 home runs, it just gives you such explosiveness where you're never out of a game. And I agree that, they don't do other things so well, but, I think the biggest issue with them all along has been, do they have enough starting pitching? And, when you can keep coming back the way they do, and always staying in games because you can break open a game at any time or you can overcome a deficit at any time, it's a great luxury. And then they have, it's just a sensational bullpen, particularly Britain. I don't think this guy's getting enough credit for what he's doing. There's only been 3 relievers who've had 40 saves and an ERA under 1 ever. And one of them was Dennis Eckersley in 1990. The other one, more recent and probably not quite as big a star as Fernando Rodney. But, he's 46. Britain's 46 for 46 in save chances. People don't touch him. He's allowed 4 runs. So he's been a huge key to their success. But that combined with it is a boom or bust approach at the plate, but it's fun to watch, and I do think it has been effective.
It's fun to watch when they're winning. It's horrible to watch when they're striking out a whole lot and stranding runners all the time. Jorge Ortiz joining us here from USA Today. You can follow him at Jorge L. Ortiz out on Twitter as well. We talk about starting pitching and where it is. The Orioles' pitching has been far better over the last 90 days than I thought possible. Certainly in the case of Gallardo, Bundy is still out there, even though they talked about shutting down. Gosman's been better than advertised in the second half of the season. And, we've talked this week that if they get into this one-game playoff, it's sort of set up for Tillman to be there and be right. But the only guy that's been relatively healthy over the last month where you really look and say he has innings left would be Jimenez. That really would be something if Ubaldo Jimenez is the guy that's called upon to start the wild card game.
Probably not what you want. The way, Gosman, except for his last start, which wasn't actually that bad. He's the first 6 innings he allowed 2 runs, and then things blew up in the 7th against the Red Sox. But Gosman has been so hot; he would be the guy you would want there. But again, when you're battling for the wild card, you don't really have the luxury of picking your spots. You're sticking with your rotation, and whoever's turn it is, you just hope they can do the job, and then turn it over to the bullpen. And having Darren O'Day back and having Gibbons and then Britton, they have a strong bullpen. Brad Bragg rather. They have a strong enough bullpen that they can just figure, let's maintain with 5 innings with our starters. Let's hope our starter, will just allow 3 or 4 runs over those 5 innings, and then we'll just hit the opponents with our bullpen and with our power pack lineup. But take your chances with that. It's not stylistically ideal for a purist, but I again, given all the questions about this starting rotation throughout the year, I think they're in a pretty solid spot. And my God, I'm looking at some of their rotations on the back end of or some of the ERAs on the back end of their rotation, and they make your head spin. There's lots of 5s in there.
There's no doubt about it. Jorge Ortiz joining us here from USA Today. We are monitoring all things Orioles all week long as they head to Canada and to New York to try to get themselves into the wild card game. Now they're mathematically eliminated from winning the division at this point, and it's all happened so quickly with the Red Sox surge. Meanwhile, in the National League, I think the Cubs wrapped up the Central sometime back in June. It has really been a runaway train for them, and we haven't heard much, but they're still winning ball games. And I know Joe Madden has been trying to set up the pitching rotation, and I've said this for months, Jorge. They better win Game 1. Game 1 next week, once you get into Thursday and Friday, we get into the real playoffs. It's so important, especially at home. The Cubs have had that luxury for a long, long time to make sure they win Game 1 next week.
They do, and what's remarkable with them is that they could pick out of 3 Cy Young Award candidates to open up Game 1. Jake Arrieta, John Lesser, who may be the winner of the award this year, and Kyle Hendricks. That's how good their pitching has been. You look at their lineup, and it does have some holes or more, guys you can pitch to. You have the Rizzos and the Bryans, and both are just tremendous hitters. But there are spots in that lineup that you can pitch to, but it's just that they don't give you a whole lot because their starting pitching is so good. And then, you look at filling the closer role, which they did with Aroldis Chapman, it doesn't leave them with a whole lot of holes or a lot of deficiencies. The other thing you like about them is that they catch the ball. They're very good defensively, and that's something that Joe Maddon has always emphasized. They did it very well in his days with the Tampa Bay Rays. And so they're not going to give a way out. So is it important to win the first game? It is important in any 5-game series to win that first game. And they do have, a little more pressure because of not having won in over a century and because, clearly the dominant team throughout baseball. But, if you lose the first game with Lester, you still have Arrieta and Hendricks. So this is a really loaded squad.
The Mets have proven to be pretty pesky here lately, and meanwhile, it looks as though the San Francisco Giants are doing everything they can do to make sure they're not in the tournament next week.
It's unbelievable seeing the collapse of the Giants. They are on pace to have the worst second-half record for any team that had the best record in the first half in the history of the game. And it's not even close. The disparity is huge. And you keep pondering, how could they be this bad when you see the numbers in that roster? And, a lot of those guys just haven't performed to their expectations. They haven't been hurt that much, particularly since they got Hunter Pence back, and Joe Paddock back. You can't really blame it on injuries. But the collapse continues, and they can't handle the San Diego Padres. They won 9 games for the Padres in the first half, and then they lost the next 6 in the second half, starting right after the break. And it's just inconceivable the way they keep finding ways to lose. The bullpen clearly has been incendiary in September. But, before that, the bullpen was decent, and Madison Bumgarner wasn't as good as he had been in the past. He had been solid but not dominant. And Jeff Samardzija had a couple of terrible months. Buster Posey's having a down year. You look up and down that lineup, and it's like, these guys are just not performing up to their level. And it may very well cost them because they're starting a 3-game series against the Colorado Rockies tomorrow, and then they have 3 more with the Dodgers. And there's no certainty that they're going to take even 2 from the Rockies because that's the kind of team they've been. They just haven't put together a winning streak of more than 3 games in the second half. And there's no reason to believe they're going to do that now.
He is Jorge L. Ortiz out on Twitter covering all things baseball for the USA Today. Last thing for you, Jorge, a week from now, you expect the Orioles to be in the wild card game?
I do. I do think they have enough going. And not only that, a lot of people think that if they get into the playoffs, they're going to be really tough to bounce out because now you're focusing on the top 3 starters. You don't need, 4 or 5 starters. And, we talked about, Gaussman fits really well. You have Tillman. You have that terrific bullpen. And then you have the explosiveness of the offense, where so many games are close in the playoffs, and they can just be decided by 1 or 2 swings of the bat. So I think the Orioles are very dangerous if they do get into the extended playoffs past the wild card game.
We'll see how this road trip goes. Lots of peril ahead in Toronto and New York. All right, thanks for coming on, man. Keep enjoying the baseball. We'll check in again during the playoffs, pal.
You got it.
Jorge Ortiz, he is Jorge L. Ortiz out on Twitter as well as at the USA Today and usatoday.com. You can find me out in the Bio Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's Eastern Standard Time. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there. And last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That is powered up by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Kolatzis will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5. It is the SSV. That's the Sunday Sports Voice. Now heard on Thursdays from 3 until 5 here, getting you ready for Thursday Night Football as well as the Orioles finale in Toronto and then on to Yankee Stadium. We're waiting for the undefeated Baltimore Ravens to get back home on Sunday, taking on the Oakland Raiders. We'll be back and forth to Owings Mills all week and out on our social media. You can always find me, Nasty, at WNST.net. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on Facebook as well as on our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.